Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Cubot N1. This is a budget fitness smartwatch that sells for under 50 bucks, and the company Cubot you might have heard of in the past in the context of making affordable Android smartphones. Some of them also have more of a rugged appearance. But now they're trying to branch out into wearables, and the N1 is one of their options that has a round display, as well as 5 ATM for waterproofing, so you can use this when swimming or taking a shower, and it will last for up to 25 days. But keep in mind the feature set, what you can run on the watch, is going to be a lot more limited, hence also the lower cost. Now in terms of other specs, it does have 24 hours continuous heart rate monitoring, as well as SPO2 blood oxygen monitoring. It is worth noting though, at this low price, you won't have built-in GPS for this particular model. So if you want to track your route when you're running outdoors, you have to use your phone's connected GPS, but otherwise it has over 13 modes for basic sports tracking. So here's the packaging, pretty simple, it just says N1, and on the rear we also have a QR code that you can scan to download the companion app. Inside we'll find access to the watch along with the charging cable, which will simply attach onto the back of the watch like this when you need to quickly top it up. Otherwise there's just a quick user guide. Taking a closer look at the design of the N1 smartwatch, so as aforementioned, it definitely looks more premium and slightly more rugged in its design with its slightly larger bezel and frame here that's made out of aluminum. However, the sides of the watch are still going to be made out of plastic. It's just the frame on the top has some metal accents to it. So overall, despite it being a slightly larger overall dimension, it doesn't feel too heavy. It feels kind of similar to the Amazfit T-Rex Pro that we saw the other day, which also has a predominantly plastic build. Comfortable on the wrist, I'd say, although the dimensions of the watch are still going to be a little larger because of the overall aesthetic that they're choosing. Now in terms of the band straps here, they're also removable, so you can swap them out for other textures and sizes if you prefer. The one that comes by default has a stainless steel buckle that has the Cubot logo on it. On the rear here we also have the array of sensors, which include the aforementioned heart rate monitoring as well as blood oxygen, which will turn it red, as you can see there, versus green when it's doing the heart rate detection. Otherwise, we have simply two crown keys on the edges. The top one you can tap on once when the screen is on to turn it off, as well as the bottom key that you can tap on once to instantly jump into the 13 activities that you can begin tracking via a sports session. A few things to keep in mind here is this watch, again considering the budget price, doesn't come with a built-in microphone nor speaker, but you are able to view notifications, like if a call is incoming and you can reject it, or of course you can take a look at any missed messages like text messages, social media, things like that. Now again, the display on the front here measures 1.3 inches diagonally. It is a round display, which does look pretty good, even though it's an IPS LCD screen and not AMOLED. It still looks quite vibrant and bright, especially at this mode that we have it now. You can see that pointing it at different light sources, it still remains visible, which is great. Now the UI here is quite familiar if you've seen the Halo Solar and some of the other budget smartwatches that we've checked out recently, which is not a bad thing. It's simple, but also offers the core features at a quick glance, and swipes in terms of the touch responsiveness also feel good enough. It doesn't become too distracting. Drag down to access some quick shortcuts to things like changing the screen brightness level, a do not disturb mode, vibration mode, as well as go into advanced settings that can take a look at the firmware information of the watch, pretty basic stuff. And we can also drag upwards to take a look at any missed messages or notifications, and then we can just slide left and right in a carousel view to go through the different widgets. So for example, the first screen here will show me how many steps I've walked over the past 24 hours, distance converted to kilometers, as well as average calories burned. Swipe again to take a look at my heart rate data, such as my highest versus lowest for the day, and I can swipe over again to take a look at a SPO2. The interesting thing here is you can set it up using the app so that it will automatically make a measurement every 10 minutes up to every few hours, but in terms of viewing the data from the widget here, you can only see the past measurement that you've done compared to the heart rate where you have the full map here that you can see some more details. Now next over we can take a look at sleep data, and it will record the information and show it here until about 6 p.m. Afterwards, the data here will be wiped, and you can only see it after you sync it over on your phone, along with once over to take a look at the weather info, again synced over from your phone's data that will tell you the current highs and lows for the day, as well as 3 days ahead, which is pretty neat. We also have a control for playing back music, acting as a remote, so you can play and pause or skip tracks if you're connected by Bluetooth to your phone for whatever your phone is playing back. And finally, the last page over over is really just a full list of different applications, such as taking a look at a stopwatch as a basic function, although notably missing would be a countdown timer for some reason, and there is also no built-in alarm clock app that you can control from the watch itself, but you can set that up from your phone. So when you go into the companion app, you can turn alarms on or off, but that is something that is not controllable on the watch directly. But overall, it's pretty simple, easy to use, and the touchscreen responsiveness, again, also feels quite good in terms of sensitivity. You can change the dial just by long holding for a few seconds, like other smartwatches. It can hold up to 4 in its memory before it will rewrite over whatever is on the 4th screen if you want to push over a new dial, for example. So right now, the 4th one we have is an image showing our steps as well. We can also change it to a more analog style, and another one that kind of reminds me a bit of some of the Huawei smartwatches or the Honor smartwatches in terms of its design. If we jump into the training modes very quickly, again, here are the 13 ones that you get, include running, walking, cycling. There's also going to be yoga, jump rope, tennis, basketball, baseball, badminton, football, rugby, and table tennis. So they're quite simple, and let's say I want to start a session like running, it will count down in 3 seconds, and afterwards it will just continuously track your heart rate during the entire session, number of steps. The smartwatch app called Glory Fit is actually not branded directly by Cubot, so it's going to be slightly generic in terms of sharing DNA with other smartwatches that can all connect with this one app, but you can see basic stats and sync it over just by pulling here once you're connected using Bluetooth. It's overall pretty quick to refresh and will tell you number of steps you walked and some more granular breakdown of things like heart rate. You can also see your average heart rate as well, and more stats there in this curve, also compared to other days in the week, as well as how long you've been spent in different stages of these heart rate zones to check your overall health. And in terms of your sleep, we can see that it's been visible here on the app, even though it's been wiped on the watch, because we are now getting towards evening time again. But we can take a look at how many hours I've slept in deep, light versus been awake, and some quick analysis here, such as whether I should sleep earlier, wake up earlier, things like that. Pretty basic stuff. Now, the accuracy of the sensors here in terms of the sleep tracking, I would say, is decent, although it is only going to work at night. So if you take a nap during the day, it doesn't really delineate that as sleep compared to some of the more expensive smartwatches that are made by Amazfit as well as Huawei that can do that these days. However, overall, if you're sleeping in the normal hours, it still gets a rough estimate. Things like the heart rate monitoring does seem quite accurate when compared to some other smartwatches from Xiaomi, Huawei, and even Apple that I was comparing it against earlier. Blood oxygen monitoring, I would say the most impressive thing is that the speed of the sensors here has definitely been improved compared to previous smartwatches under 50 bucks. Those used to have, you have to sit still and it will take a measurement up to 30 or even 40 seconds, versus this one can get it in around 10 to 15 and give us accuracy here that I think is also comparable to some of the other watches when I was testing it out earlier. And even the step count seems to be good enough. I was trying to shake it and it didn't really count it as an accidental step. And so if I walked 100 steps, it would often just say 100 or sometimes 102 steps, just a little bit over, but not by too much, and gets us a good enough approximation of how active we've been at different points during the day. You can also tap on device to turn on or off different settings, such as sending different types of notifications over, as well as change the watch dial. And it's good to see that we do have a variety of options that you can pick between, and you can refresh by pulling down, and the list will also scroll up a little bit. It's not going to be quite the largest selection in the world, but we still get a overall fair amount of relatively attractive looking digital as well as analog designs to pick between that really does change the aesthetic of the watch as a whole. And you can also create your custom dial, which will essentially allow you to use your own photo as the background, change even the color of the text. Sending a watch dial over usually takes about 30 seconds to complete, and some of them are also animated, as you can see it like this astronaut that's spinning around. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Cubot N1 budget smartwatch. Again, it doesn't bring anything too revolutionary to the table that we haven't seen before, but also shows that budget smartwatches have also gone gradually better in terms of having a user interface now that actually is pretty smooth and easy to use. You're wrapped in a body that does look pretty utilitarian and premium compared to its price. This would be a good alternative to options like the Halo Solar. You can find out more details if you're interested in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been a closer look at the Cubot N1 budget smartwatch.